Welcome back from the break. You're still watching This Week, and I'm Samna Sambo. We now move on to the governing APC, where the Presidential Campaign Council has fired back at its former chieftain, Hannatu Muhammad, saying that her recent outbursts on Bola Tinubu having no plan for the North and is allegedly being mentally challenged have, quote, no iota of facts. The campaign claims she was sacked over her incompetence, quarrelsomeness, and after being uncovered to be a mole planted in the APC in order to leak sensitive information to its desperate opponents, PDP. But Hannatu continues to say otherwise, as she has been slamming the party's presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on several fronts and then on several media platforms. Well, to help us understand these issues, we have joining us now Hannatu Musawa, who's the deputy spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. And of course, she'll help us understand some of the issues that are ongoing. Welcome to the program, Hannatu.
Hannatu.
Sorry, Hannatu Musa. See, I'm already going there. Yeah, so Hannatu, just take us through some of these issues that we have. I mean, from all that Hannatu has said, one thing that hit a lot of people was that she claimed that Bola Tinubu did not give a listening ear on the issue of having a plan for the North. That several times she had met, especially when she met with him in London, that he didn't seem to have a plan for the North, and as a result of that, she has left. In fact, today she was in Kebbi State, where she's campaigning for Atiku Abubakar. Maybe, quote, Atiku has a plan for the North. What's your view?
Thank you for having me on the show this evening. You know, one of the things that I've learned in this political process is that everyone has their own separate experiences, and it's not for anyone to talk about another person's experience. What I can tell you is my own experience of my interaction with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and what I see for his plan of the North. As a Nigerian, being what is in the interest of the wider Nigeria is extremely important to me. And at the same time, being from the northwest part of the country, from Katsina specifically, what is in the interest of the North is very, very important to me as well. When I joined Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's campaign, one of the things that really sort of drew me to him, apart from what I saw he did in Lagos and the sort of achievements that he was able to record, I had a discussion with him, I sat down with him, and he sort of opened up about his vision of what he saw for Nigeria, and that really sort of drew me in. But on closer inspection, we spoke about the North, because like I said, I'm from Katsina State and it's extremely important to me. And one of the main reasons why I reverbed towards Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was because of the vision that he had for Arewa and the vision that he had for the North. I spoke to him about the issue of out-of-school children, the Almajiri, and he spoke to me about his interest in trying to get as many children, especially from the northern part of the country, back in school, and it was something that he was going to include in his action plan. He speaks also about agriculture. Agriculture is really the bane of the North, isn't it? And it is part of the resurgence that we need in the North. He has a very intricate and very robust idea of how he wants to build the agricultural sector, especially how as it has to it pertains to the North. Then he also speaks about industry. He talked to me personally.
Yes. So you had this conversation personally with him. Yes. Did he by chance actually seem as if he was mentally challenged, as Hannatu claims in her interviews?
I wouldn't be supporting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu if I thought in the least bit that there was any mental question to his mental capacity or what have you. To be honest with you, of all the people that I've been involved with in politics, and I've been in politics since 2002, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is one of the most cerebral and in touch people that I've been able to talk to. I've been able to learn so much from him because in talking with him, he's been able to sort of open my mind to different ways and innovations that you can apply to Nigeria. So from my own personal experience, what I saw of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man that is very much has his faculties intact.
And because she actually claims that he can't even hold a cup of tea.
Well, I had as it would happen.
And so a lot of people were taken aback by such
I saw Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu just 2 days ago, and actually I had a cup of tea with him. I had coffee, he had tea. So He did hold a cup of tea, and I think he's listen. People can say anything that they want about anyone, and you know, we live in a democracy, in a country, and we're very lucky to operate a democracy where everyone has a right to associate, a constitutional right to associate in the way they want and to be able to express themselves in the way they want. But what I would have wanted in this process is to, no matter what we do, politics aside, we must always try to be kind and not to be cruel. You know, when you say things about other presidential candidates or other candidates in general, you know, you have to remember, you know, these are human beings. I know that they are vying for the top job in the country, but, you know, we have to be humanistic even in our estimations. You cannot, these are people that have families, these are people that have feelings. And when you put names to them, talking about people being mentally deranged, and you talk about someone being mentally deranged, that would connote that a person does not have his faculties in place at all, and that has is not able to even reason or articulate thoughts to a point that there is severe mental illness. And if that was the fact, I don't think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have been able to campaign in the way that he's doing. And no matter what anyone says, I think nobody can take away from him that he gets up every single day since we kicked off our campaign. He's been busy either going to a town hall meeting or traversing across the country to go to different parts of the different states and rallying in those states. Right. And if he was mentally deranged, he would not be able to do that, because mentally deranged people don't have the ability to even do the basic things that you and I are able to, which Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the world can see, is able to do that.
Well, it's left for Nigerians to actually decipher.
Exactly,
but there's this talk of a grand conspiracy by some of you who are from the north, that you're just waiting for election day to actually stab Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you know, on his back, and that a lot of you are just out there to just collect his money. You're deceiving him. The Northern Caucus of the APC. Talk to us about what exactly the Northern Caucus of the APC is doing to ensure that they deliver Bola Tinubu, just like Tinubu claims he helped deliver President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015 and 2019.
It's a good thing that I personally am actually not only involved at the national level of this campaign, I'm also involved at the grassroots level. I'm the Secretary General of the Katsina Campaign Council, and I literally, from day to day, even tomorrow I'm traveling to Katsina for campaign, I go to the very ground. I have relations with people on the ground in Kano, in Kebbi, in Kaduna, and all parts of the north. And I can tell you, if there's any conspiracy going on in the north, it's the conspiracy for the north to come out en masse and deliver Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What I can guarantee you is that not only is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to win this election in 25 days' time, he's going to win decisively in the northwestern part of the country. In the same
north where we have an Atiku contesting.
Exactly.
And there are talks here and there that do not seem to be tilting towards Atiku.
There's no
it even claims that President Buhari is supporting Atiku Abubakar because of kinship of ethnicity and tribe and all of that.
There's absolutely no truth to the fact that the north is going to rally behind Atiku Abubakar because he's a northerner. That is really not true. I think that is part of what the opposition is saying. It's almost like gaslighting. It's sort of gaslighting. You're trying to gaslight us to make us believe that. But I know, I'm on the ground. And whenever I go for campaigns, there's no issue of, yes, of course, Atiku, of all the candidates, the PDP is the only one that I would say is actually in contention.
Well, the Labour Party will disagree with you. Even Muslim clerics in the north are already asking some people not to vote for Peter Obi because he's not from the north, and because, you would have seen some of those videos here and there.
The Labour Party, as much as I admire Peter Obi, and as much as I appreciate his participation specifically in this cycle, because his introduction into this particular cycle has opened up the conversation and is strengthening our democracy, and it's only a good thing. So anybody who loves democracy and loves Nigeria and loves freedom would be very appreciative of Peter Obi. But the reality, my brother, on ground, is that Peter Obi is a non-starter in the north.
Is that the thinking of your
I'm
campaign,
telling you that there is not a cotton picking chance on earth. There's not a cotton picking chance on earth that Peter Obi can win anything in almost every part of the north, and that is the reality.
So your major fear is Atiku and probably a Kwankwaso.
That's not my major fear. My major analysis is that Atiku is the only contender on the ballot. That's what I said.
Not even a Kwankwaso.
Kwankwaso has his base in Kano, and Kano is his base. And I leave it at that. And I don't think that the NNPP, as much as Kwankwaso again is an amazing patriot, a Nigerian who I'm immensely proud of, especially being from the northwestern part of the country. But unfortunately, NNPP does not have the latitude or the capacity to be able, or the structure, we talk about structure all the time, to be able to win the election across the board in the way the Constitution requires, in the same way that Peter Obi does not either. Peter Obi has to cross the threshold of Section 134 of the Constitution, and he just isn't going to be able to do that. And I keep on saying to people, especially with the obedience, there's going to be two things that's going to happen as far as Peter Obi is concerned. The first is that he's going to do a lot better than maybe people like me give him credit for. But the second is that the obedience and people who actually believe Peter Obi can actually win a smidgen of hope of winning this election are going to be absolutely shocked at how badly he's going to. Yeah, well,
because, I mean, people say the NNPP and the Labour Party are pushing towards ensuring that there's a runoff, and maybe they will use the opportunity to actually negotiate with any of the bigger parties as to what positions they will get in a potential PDP or APC and the federal government.
Yeah, they're hoping for a runoff because that's the very best that they can get. You don't hear APC or even PDP talking about a runoff. It's only Labour Party and some of the other fringe parties that talk about runoff, because that is almost wishful thoughts. That's the very best that they can get in order for them to have pathway to victory. But you don't hear us talking about a runoff. We're not talking about a runoff. We're talking about victory. But at this point,
it's a straight win for
it's a straight. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a straight pathway to victory.
So, but why does it sound like an opposition politician? I mean, if you hear him in Makurdi, you hear him in Abeokuta, it looks like he's scoring an own goal. I mean,
not really.
He seems to be attacking the governing party, these policies, and saying the PDP is this, making the PDP look larger than life.
These are separate things that you've mentioned. You said he's scoring an own goal. I want to set something straight. Asiwaju made comments in Abeokuta. That comment that he's made has been taken specifically by the media and the opposition party, and they've run with it and made interpretations of it.
Well, when he refers to the issue of Naira redesign, isn't the Central Bank of Nigeria under the APC-led federal government in charge?
Did he
when you talk about the issue of petrol supply, isn't the federal government led by President Muhammadu Buhari, who's the Minister of Petroleum, in charge?
But never once did he mention the Central Bank.
Well, he wasn't necessarily mentioning them.
What he said was that the powers that be. And what does that mean? The powers that be could be individuals or organizations that have authority over any specific domain. He could have been talking about the oil marketers. He could have been talking about the bank service providers.
Well, he actually mentioned the oil marketers while in Makurdi.
Exactly.
And that is PDP controlled.
And that is not.
But Buhari is the Minister of Petroleum. No, Minister of State for Petroleum, Timi Silva, is also an APC chieftain.
But Buhari is not an oil marketer. So we want to be specific in this. You know, you cannot just throw it in there and say that because he said, I suppose. Not once did he say Buhari or the Buhari government. The Buhari government and President Buhari and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu are completely and totally in sync in what they're doing. Buhari has gone out of his way to come and campaign with us because he's showing Nigeria. He's not doing it to pretend, is he? He's doing it because
someone like Tanko Yakasai will disagree with you. He says President Buhari doesn't seem to be supporting Bola Tinubu. He would have seen statement from Garba
That's his opinion. He said he doesn't seem that. So he's made his own interpretation. He's not spoken to President Buhari for him to infer this is what Buhari has said to him. So, I mean, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not say anything about the government. And we talk
So why was Tinubu in Katsina? Based on what we're reading, national newspaper just said it, that Tinubu was in Katsina yesterday. He met with the Katsina State governor, and from there they all went to Dara to meet with President Buhari.
I was actually in Katsina when Tinubu came. I was actually at the airport to actually meet him when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu came to Katsina, and President Muhammadu Buhari was actually in Katsina to commission a number of projects
we reported
that the governor had done, and it was something that was also of interest to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And it doesn't mean because he went to Daura to see, like I said, I was actually there. Not that I'm going to tell you.
So it wasn't going to plead or trying to make the president understand that this is what he meant.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu doesn't have to plead with anyone, because let me tell you something, Mr. Sumner. The way the things are going, there's 25 days to the election. What I can tell you is we can talk about all this, all the opposition can come, like the person who came on,
the spokesperson of the PDP,
who I really respect a lot. But it's so sad to see in your position as a spokesperson the enthusiasm that would make you come and spew lies and misinformation and misrepresentation about things.
Isn't it because your candidate Tinubu is giving them credit, quote, for what they don't deserve? I mean,
not
he's saying
really,
that
because
their
they're misinterpreting,
saying that PDP, which is in the opposition, is actually sabotaging the economy and all of that.
Because you may have members of PDP within the establishment that he's talking about. We speak about the Naira redesign. We know that there has been a scarcity of these new notes. And it seems as if there are bank service providers or people within that establishment that are hoarding these notes. That doesn't have to do with Buhari, and it could be from any party, and it could be a sabotage. And there's nothing wrong with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu pointing this out to Nigerians, because at the end of the day, it's good for him to speak out about this, because there's Nigerians that are suffering. It doesn't matter what's going to happen in the next 25 days, because Asiwaju is still going to win his election.
Well, what gives you that confidence that Bola Tinubu is going to win this election in the midst of this suffering? That's why Tinubu is saying that the queues are resurging because there's a plan to actually derail voters to actually vote for him and all of that.
Yes.
In the midst of fuel scarcity, insecurity, I mean, you have some of the trains derailing and all of that. Do you think that there's any grand plan against the governing party's candidates?
It could be a grand plan. It's not by the government, but it could be members of maybe the opposition or moles within the system that are trying to sabotage, and I don't blame them. Because Asiwaju is the front runner and he's going to win. And they're going to now try to deploy every single means to try to stop him in his pathway to victory. But like I said, we can talk about all that we want to talk about. All of it, at the end of the day, turns down to be hyperbole. At the end of the day, in 26 days' time, this whole argument shall come to an end. When
tell us why Nigerians should vote for
declared.
Bola Tinubu as we try to round off this conversation. What plan does he have for Nigeria, and why should Nigerians believe him in the midst of all of this, the gaffes, the challenges, and what looks like an own goal almost every week whenever he's on the stage?
First of all, there's no own goal every week when he's on the stage. Asiwaju goes out, and I go for a lot of his rallies. He goes out and he makes his points decisively, and he comes back. But of course, everybody takes it and twists it.
Najatu says they only just hit drums and he dances, and he doesn't say much to Nigerians whenever he's on the stage.
It's good that he dances. I like the way he dances. He dances very well, and there's nothing wrong with him celebrating in advance of his victory. But at the end of the day, on a serious note, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, like I said, for me, as a spokesperson, I'm not here to castigate or denigrate anyone, because I think all the candidates are great patriots, and I think they're very courageous to have offered themselves to Nigerians, and I think we should all appreciate them.
So why
but
should
out
Nigerians
of all
vote
of them,
for Bola
because
Tinubu?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the one with the greatest courage, clout, character, capacity, capability, vision, sincerity of purpose to identify the most troubling issues to Nigeria and prefer solutions for them. I really do believe that. Apart from the fact of what he's done in Lagos, you look at his action plan. He's come out with an amazing holistic action plan that addresses every facet of life for Nigerians to try to bring resurgence to Nigeria. He is backed by one of the most cerebral people that I've ever come across, one of the most articulate orators and very intelligent, Alhaji Kashim Shettima. And I believe that of all the candidates None of them have the capacity of Bola Tinubu. And I think all the candidates know it as well. And that is why he is the one that everyone seems to be.
And you think these corruption allegations, the allegations of courts being charged for drugs and all of that wouldn't count against him as we head towards the election day?
But
because some of these things are being brought against your candidate.
But I'm glad you said allegations, because I could look at one of the other candidates and say that he's a two-spirited penguin. That doesn't mean that he's a two-spirited penguin, does it? But at the end of the day, these are allegations. If there was any truth to any of these matters, it would have been taken to court. And I have to say,
forfeited some monies to the U.S. government.
But the US, it isn't, because the U.S. government has already, U.S. embassy has already written clearing Asiwaju of any wrongdoing to do with drugs or anything. And these are issues that are being regurgitated.
So why is she refusing to go away very quickly?
Because the opposition are bringing it up again. It's the opposition that have cases to answer, because they're the ones that have recorded evidence of their voices on tape. You don't have anything. All you have of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu are accusations, and most of these accusations are ones that have been already brought up. They have been treated through the legal process, and they have been laid to rest. And they're just regurgitating them for politics.
Almost, thank you so much. A lot of people, the last time we had you here, a lot of people were like, man, in this age of enlightenment, they think you'll be backing a much more younger candidate, not some of these older candidates.
Yeah, I'm backing Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. And Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is the one that's going to bring development most to the north. As a northern woman, I say this, and I stand by Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and I'm excited to see when he becomes the president how he's going to take Arewa, the north, to a higher plane. All right, we must thank you immensely. Hannatu Musawa is a deputy spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, and she has been helping us to understand the issues that are related to the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu, and of course the campaign, and of course some of the things that Nigerians are looking out for. Well, we must thank you so much for being on our program. It's about 27 days to the presidential elections and barely 48 hours to the close of PVC distribution. Collect your PVC and avoid selling your votes as we head towards the election on February 25th. That's how it's been for this edition of This Week. I'm Samna Sambo. See you again next week.